You've probably been in a situation where you told yourself you would work really hard and accomplish a bunch of tasks that you needed to get done. But when the time comes, you have this feeling of being unmotivated or even lazy. And so instead of sitting down and doing that hard piece of work, you instead distract yourself and do something else to avoid the hard task itself. This is something that I have experienced a lot over my life, and in this video I want to share with you what I've learned recently about how you can overcome this sort of laziness and feeling unmotivated to do hard work. The first topic that I want to talk about is dopamine. This is something that I'm pretty sure you've heard a lot about of already through things over the internet like Andrew Huberman podcast and things like that. But maybe you haven't heard about how you can leverage dopamine to help you feel motivated and have that drive to do some hard piece of work that you don't really feel like doing. The problem isn't dopamine itself, but you having a low sensitivity to the reward that dopamine gives you, which means that you need to play some video games, watch TikTok, and eat some kind of dessert all at the same time to receive a sufficient reward. Having a low sensitivity to dopamine makes it extremely hard to do any hard task because those hard tasks don't provide enough dopamine for you to call it a reward. And so that hard task that you're doing seems extremely boring compared to the stimulating and distracting things that you usually indulge in. But let's imagine a scenario where you have a high sensitivity to dopamine, where even the smallest bits of dopamine seems like a sufficient reward. The amount of satisfaction that you would get from a seemingly boring task, like going on a walk or reading a book, would be significantly higher. Like you would start to enjoy all of those boring activities like reading and walking and all those kind of other stuff. And now let's go back to hard work. With that high sensitivity, you would actually start to enjoy it because that low amount of dopamine that you would get from that hard task would start to feel stimulating because you have that high sensitivity. And so that's why having that high sensitivity is extremely important in order to make you have some sort of drive and motivation and focus on that hard piece of work that only has a tiny bit of dopamine. So you might be wondering, how do we go from needing a high amount of stimulation to capture our attention to needing a low amount of stimulation to capture our attention? To basically sum it all up, all you need to start implementing into your life is boredom. To resensitize your brain and make it so that you have that high sensitivity to low amounts of dopamine, you need to make sure that boredom is a regular part of your life. This is because nothing is less stimulating than boredom. And if you start making boredom a normal part of your life, hard work will start to seem fun. Now you might be thinking, in order to resensitize your brain into having this high sensitivity to dopamine, you need to get rid of your phone completely, put it in a drawer, hide it away for weeks on end, and meditate every day for 2 hours. While that will work tremendously, there are simpler ways that aren't as extreme that I think you can even try today. The first way is to change the way you take your breaks in between work sessions. Most people, during their breaks, go for the most stimulating route that they can, which is by grabbing their phone, checking their messages, and scrolling on social media. This will stimulate them with high amounts of dopamine, and that is a problem because this break only lasts 10 minutes, and then you have to go back to a low stimulating activity. So, as soon as you're done with that break and you go back to that hard work, it is now extremely dull and boring, and it seems like a lot more work. When you take this stimulating route during your breaks, you are making your break more stimulating than the work itself, and so it's going to be a lot harder to transition back into your work and continue being in that flow state. So instead of this, use boredom during your breaks. Make it so that you are so bored during your breaks that you actually want to go back to doing your hard work, because that is actually more stimulating than whatever you're doing right now. The next way involves breaking a habit that you do subconsciously. You probably see this every day, and it probably happens to you a lot. It's during those times where you're waiting for a friend, or you're at a bus stop waiting for your bus, or you're even just waiting in line, and you just take out your phone to pass the time. Instead of doing that habit where you're taking out your phone and checking your messages and scrolling on social media, just sit there in silence. I know it's going to be super uncomfortable, and you probably don't even know what to do, but that's the point. You're supposed to sit there, be bored, and be present. If you made it this far into the video, I challenge you to do this today. If you're waiting in line, or maybe you're just sitting down to eat, instead of having a phone in front of you, just sit there in silence. This will help you resensitize your brain and tolerate boredom in order for it to become your new norm. This will probably be very grueling at the start, but as you start to get more consistent with it and you do it more often, it will start to help you a lot more than you think. The next topic that I want to talk about is recovery and the importance of it. You might be the person that has the ability to do a lot of hard work for long periods of time. But if you do these kinds of hard work periods and never take the time to recover, being unmotivated and feeling lazy is bound to happen. This is because recovery allows you to get rid of that mental and physical fatigue that you've built up during the day through hard work and decisions and things like that, and will help you prepare you to perform better the next day or the next time you do that hard task. It's sort of like working out in the gym. You don't want to just constantly do bicep curls because yes, you will exert the muscle, but you will never give it time to heal and become stronger. And so that's what kind of recovery does for your brain and your physical side of things when it comes to doing hard work and other things like that. Here are some recovery activities that will help you get rid of that mental and physical fatigue that you've built up in your body. This includes meditating. This can be any form of meditating or some sort of breath work, which is fine. Cold therapy, taking cold showers or cold plunges. Heat therapy, so that can be things like hot tubs or saunas. Then you have exercise, which is things like walking or cardio, such as running. Then you have being in nature. And so you can probably do exercise and nature with walking, which is why I think walking is such a good recovery activity. And the final activity is sleep. And you probably think that this is probably one of the more unimportant activities, but it is probably the most important way to recover your body and your brain. One last thing that I want to mention is that recovery is not relaxation. Relaxation may feel like recovery, but in reality, you're just sitting on the couch watching a movie and not really doing anything to help you get rid of that fatigue that is built up in your body. So, relaxation is good once in a while, but it is not a form of active recovery that is useful for your body. Those are the two things that I believe will help you overcome laziness and feeling unmotivated in your life. I hope you're able to apply these into your life and see how they work for you. Obviously, the most ideal thing would just be using your discipline to get over this feeling of laziness and feeling unmotivated. But discipline is not always there, especially if you're going through a rut or you're actually going through something. So I thought it'd be useful to learn and teach you these two things so that you can use it when needed to maybe get out of a rut and start being consistent again with your action and improving yourself. But yeah, please let me know if there's anything that I can improve on. But I hope you learned something from this video and enjoyed it. And thank you so much for watching.